From the moment we're born, we're planted in pots of expectations. The pot of family, of society, of success. But what happens when the soul is an acorn seed, planted in a bonsai pot? The story you are about to witness is a profound parable about the courage to break the pot to find the earth. It will be told entirely in English, designed as an immersive tool to help you strengthen your listening comprehension and enrich your vocabulary. Our story begins in an imposing classroom at Columbia University. The air is dense with the weight of centuries of law and tradition. But while the professor spoke of legal precedents, Kenji's mind was elsewhere. In the margin of his notebook, among the Latin terms, he wasn't writing, he was drawing landscapes, portraits of people, scenes captured from daily life, small sketches of his true passion. The weight of expectations was even more palpable at home. At a family dinner, his parents, both successful lawyers, spoke proudly about the future Judge Tanaka. They were already planning Kenji's internship at the federal court. Kenji just swallowed his food in silence, his hand resting on the camera in his lap, as if it were a shield, the only real part of him at that table. When college break arrived, it seemed like a salvation. I'm going to spend a few weeks with Uncle Tanaka in the East Village, he announced. The library there is great for studying. His mother smiled, satisfied. But the suitcase Kenji packed told another story. There were no law books, only lenses, rolls of film, and the equipment of a photographer preparing to finally breathe. Uncle Tanaka's shop, Tanaka's Antiquary, was a refuge from time and pressure. Upon entering, Kenji felt his shoulders relax for the first time in months. The air didn't smell of law books, but of old cedar and the dust of centuries, where every object seemed to have a story to tell. His uncle welcomed him, not with questions about his grades or his future, but with a simple teapot and the wisdom of one who offers silence as the best form of company. It was in the small backyard of the shop, an oasis of calm in the heart of Manhattan, that he saw it. A small pine bonsai, a living work of art. But looking closer, Kenji noticed something that disturbed him. The tree's roots, thick and strong, refused to accept the limits of its small ceramic pot. They spilled through the holes, pushing outward, desperately seeking more earth. His uncle appeared silently beside him. "It's a beautiful tree," he said, "but it's suffering." He then looked at Kenji with a gentle but piercing gaze. "Your parents, with the best intentions, planted you in a small, prestigious pot called legal success. They pruned you to have the shape they dreamed of." He then pointed to the exposed roots. "But see, Kenji, the plant is crying out for more space. It's telling you that your true nature is bigger than the pot you were planted in." Uncle Tanaka's words weren't advice, they were a mirror. And in the reflection, Kenji saw himself for the first time, not as a promising law student, but as a suffocated root. He didn't respond with words, his response was instinctive. He ran inside the shop, grabbed his camera, and returned to the backyard. Then Kenji pointed the lens at the bonsai, focusing on the roots crying out for freedom. And as he adjusted the focus, he saw, for an instant, his own face reflected in the dark, curved surface of the pot. The face of a prisoner. In that moment, the tears he had held for 2 years finally fell. The photograph became his therapy. In the following weeks, Kenji didn't photograph New York's landmarks. He documented his own liberation, cracked pots, plants growing triumphantly through cracks in the sidewalk, the roots of a giant oak tree plunging deep into the loose soil of the park. Every click was a step toward his own truth. One night, Showing the photos to his uncle, Kenji finally asked the question that had been forming in his heart. "What if my soil isn't law, uncle?" he asked. "What if I'm photography?" His uncle smiled, the same serene smile as always. "Soil," he said, placing his hand on Kenji's shoulder, "is where you flourish, Kenji. Not where others plant you." Kenji's vacation ended. He returned home, but he was no longer the same young man who had left. He was no longer fleeing, he was returning with a purpose. His parents greeted him with a hug, and immediately, with the news they considered a gift. "We got you a summer internship at the federal court." It was the next perfect step on the path they had charted for him. The old Kenji would have agreed in silence. But this new Kenji took a deep breath, the smell of cedar from his uncle's shop still in his memory. "Mom, Dad, before we talk about this, I need to show you something." He opened his portfolio on the large dining table. They weren't just photos of the bonsai, they were portraits of strangers in the East Village, full of raw humanity. They were urban details, plays of light and shadow that transformed the ordinary into extraordinary. Each image was a silent cry of his authenticity. His parents looked at the photos, motionless. The silence in the room was heavy, filled with years of expectations. Finally, his mother spoke. Her voice a mix of confusion and disappointment. "You want to abandon everything, college, your future, for photos." Kenji looked at his parents, not with anger or rebellion, but with a newly discovered calm. "I'm not abandoning anything," he said gently. "I'm growing in my own garden." The conversation with his parents wasn't easy. There were tears and arguments. But there was no longer any doubt in Kenji. The seed of his true vocation, once exposed to light, could no longer be buried. Weeks later, he made the official transplant. He transferred from law school to the School of Visual Arts. In his first photography class, sitting in a room full of other creatives, camera in hand, Kenji smiled. A genuine smile that came not from duty, but from belonging. For the first time in his adult life, the pot seemed to be the right size for his soul. Months later, he returned to Tanaka's antiquary. He no longer carried the weight of uncertainty. He brought a new portfolio. They were self-portraits, where he wasn't posing, but working, focused, with the streets of New York as his true studio. He finally seemed planted in the right soil. His uncle smiled and led him to the backyard. There was the same pine bonsai, now transplanted to a larger, deeper pot, with fresh, dark soil. Its roots, once suffocated, now plunged freely into the new soil. Kenji raised his camera to photograph the small tree, no longer as a symbol of his prison, but as a sign of his liberation. And he understood the final lesson. Sometimes, the greatest courage isn't to stay and adapt to the pot we were planted in. It's to dare to seek our own garden. If this parable about authenticity resonated with you, leave a comment below telling us, what is the pot of expectations that you feel you need to break to find your true garden? Like and share this video, so more people find the courage to seek their own soil. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that help you learn English. Until next time, honor your roots, break the pot, and flourish.